the sun. Welcome to Querida Amiga Podcast. My name is Jessica. This is episode number 7. It's probably going to be titled Machismo and Domestic Violence. So welcome. I forgot to press record on the audio. So let me do that real quick. So I don't really have much of an update, like as far as like therapy or like how I've been doing, besides that I've been the same, like, which is I've been doing pretty good. I haven't had therapy since my last session that I said that was pretty difficult, but it's like I'm still processing everything that was discussed during that time. So yeah, I've had more time to process it and like kind of decide, okay, like what am I gonna do next with like my healing. So that's what I've been doing. My next session is on November 2nd at 7 p.m. So I'm excited for that. And what I'm gonna be talking about today is about machismo. Because it's like I mentioned in the previous episode, because of machismo, a lot of women face, domestic or in domestic violence situations. So I kind of just like dug a little bit deeper onto like what it means and stuff like that. So I'll get started with that. So basically, how am I gonna start this? Okay, so this is how I'm gonna start this. I'm just gonna read. Okay, so pretty much like other articles that I read. Oh my god, let me get some water. Hold on. Oh, I'm almost done with my water. I gotta get some more. Okay. Okay. So for the most part, like this is like what I found about like what machismo means, and it's all pretty much like the same. So machismo is an exaggerated pride and masculinity perceived as power, often coupled with a minimal sense of responsibility and disregard of consequences. Machismo can be defined as a strong or exaggerated sense of manliness, an assumption attitude that validity, courage, strength, and entitlement to dominate are attributes or concomitants of masculinity. Within Hispanic culture, machismo acts as a cornerstone of family relationships and gender roles. Men are expected to display their manliness outwardly and proudly, and while this may not be a bad thing on its own, it often leads to unnecessary displays of power. Within Hispanic culture, the idea of masculinity revolves around the assumption that men are superior to women. As a result, women are expected to serve their partners. This leads to very defined gender roles and expectations within Hispanic culture. Oftentimes, this idea is reinforced through childhood for both young boys and girls. From a young age, girls are taught household skills while their male counterparts enjoy their youth. Oh, is this why my childhood was the way that it was? Adultification is prevalent within Hispanic culture based off of the idea that a woman's natural role is that of a caretaker. Girls are taught to expect catcalling and sexual assault as a form of flattery rather than as forms of harassment. By imposing these damaging ideas, society successfully limits the agency that women have their own bodies. As a result of these teachings, Hispanic men often resort to the machista examples of their forefathers as a guide for how they should act. Machismo as a form of toxic masculinity within the Hispanic culture protects the aggressors by normalizing violent, hypermasculine conduct and not considering the consequences of that conduct. because the concept of male dominance is ingrained in society. In the because male. When am I gonna learn to read? Is that ever gonna happen for me? Okay. So now I lost my place. So machismo as a form of toxic masculinity within the Hispanic culture protects the aggressors by normalizing violent, hyper-masculine conduct and not considering the consequences of the conduct. Okay. But because the concept of male dominance is so ingrained in society, violent actions against women are seen as harmless. So that's kind of messed up, don't you think? So, okay. And then before like I discuss more about machismo, I want to go over this other article that I have. And this article is to bring awareness of a organization in Mexico. It's called GENDES. So do I want to go over the organization first? Let me just read this first. So it's basically about the crime rates against women in Mexico. So the part that I want to read, here, I'll read this real quick. So GENDES is a research and advocacy group in Mexico City that seeks to improve male behavior through counseling, education, and public awareness campaigns. And then it's going to talk about this man. So George, a university professor in Mexico City who asked that his last name not be used to protect his family's privacy, came across a pamphlet advertising group therapy and decided to give it a try. His relationship with his wife had suffered after a violent episode. One night his wife arrived 30 minutes late to meet him for a movie, and he felt she did not seem sufficiently remorseful. Their argument migrated from the sidewalk to their apartment, where in a rage, Jorge threw her to the ground and punched her in the face, blooding her nose. He said that it was the first time in the relationship that his anger had turned physical and that he feared that his wife would leave him. So he's like, I had to do something. I feel curious to know what it is, to know if it was something that I could have actually changed, or if I could learn new ways of relating to people, particularly to women. And then with the GENDES, it's so what they do is they provide free therapy, given 3 times a week. It seeks to question and address the cultural beliefs that lie in the heart of machismo. And this is like another example of like one of Jorge's in one of his sessions. So Jorge bought news of a new flare-up. His wife had caught him looking at photographs of another woman on his iPad. He tried to defend his behavior. To look is not as sin. It is part of being a guy and everyone does it, he said. I am so stupid for not erasing the search history. So then like his counselor interjected and asked, what are you doing there? Jorge, a veteran of many sessions, stayed quiet, and another member of the group, Hector, who like the other men did not want their surnames revealed, filled the silence. Justification, he said. What kind of violence is this? The counselor asked Jorge. Emotional and sexual. Why? Because it breaks agreements of sincerity and fidelity. Jorge said that he had been working hard to uproot his machismo. He traced the tendency back to his childhood, which he spent in a low-income neighborhood on the outskirts of Mexico City. It was a place where if you weren't violent with others, you were a victim of it, he said. But I don't want my little boy to become a little machista, or my little daughter to think that the only way of solving things is through violence. So yeah, like this is like an example of, how machismo plays out in our culture. you know, it's like learned behavior that you learn from like a young age. And let me see, with this group, like the GENDES like program, I like that I found that, because I didn't know that, you know, Mexico had programs like this, and I feel like, you know, we should model off this program and start some programs out here. Because like that's kind of like why I just want to like bring awareness to all these issues, because like, okay, we know this is happening because of this, so like what are we gonna do to like fix it, to bring awareness, to tell people like, hey, this is an okay behavior, like let's find ways to change. Because like I said, you know, there's many reasons why it's difficult to leave a relationship that has that, you know, has domestic violence in it, because, you know, there's financial abuse, there's it's in our culture, like it's seen to not leave, like you have to protect your family, you have to be within your family, like you have to do whatever to work within your family, so like you can't leave, you know, real relationship because you got to work at it. It's, you know, seen religiously, like, you know, you're not allowed to get divorced if you're Catholic and like stuff like that. So like that's just like why I wanted to like bring awareness to all of this. And like how he says here, you know, he traced the tendencies back to his childhood, which he spent in a low income neighborhood. Like another form of trauma is poverty. It doesn't just have to be like physical violence and stuff like that. Like being poor can cause you trauma, and that's exactly, you know, kind of like what happened with him. It's like, you know, if you weren't violent with others, you were a victim of it. And of like what I've learned, like I've had conversations with one of my uncles, and like it's like everything that he like everything like it needs to be resolved with like violence, arguments, confrontation. And like he would tell me, like I learned a story about him when he was like younger. Him and like one of his cousins, like they would wash cars in Mexico, and there would be like another group who would kind of like always like bully them and stuff. So then like my uncle like grew up to like fight for himself, because, you know, he didn't want other people to like bully him. So like it's just like it stems from like childhood, and like just having like, you know, violence is like the way to answer everything. So like with being a machismo, with like machismo, it's an exaggerated pride in masculinity, and just like narcissism with, so the difference between machismo and narcissism, machismo is basically like just like men. Men display this type of behavior, but like narcissism is like anyone can be a narcissist. It, there's research that shows that men tend to be more narcissistic than women, but there can also be narcissistic women. So where did I go? So narcissistic personality disorder is a mental health condition in which people have an unreasonable high sense of their own importance. They need and seek too much attention and want to admire them. People with this disorder may lack the ability to understand or care for the feelings of others. But behind the mask of extreme confidence, they are not sure of their self-worth and are usually upset by the slightest criticism. Narcissistic personality disorder affects more males than females, and it often begins in the teens or early adulthood. And like with like Lee's podcast, like he goes over a lot of how narcissism affects people in relationships. And it doesn't just have to be like romantic relationships, it can be partners, because like if you are maybe not experiencing abuse with like your romantic relationship, but maybe like a family member is being still abusive towards you, or a friend. And then also, like, one thing that like Lee talks about in his podcast a lot is like he doesn't tell people to leave their relationship. um he like a lot of he says in his podcast, you know, a lot of people have said, you know, I wish that I would have known these things back then, because then I wouldn't have wasted like all these years. um and like the purpose of like why I'm bringing this up is because now you know. So what are you gonna do? No one is like, you, if you can't leave your relationship, like, don't leave. Come up with a plan, or at least like know all of this and just process it, figure out what you're gonna do. Because like the way I learned narcissism is, so when I took my domestic violence classes, I learned what it is, but I never like fully grasped exactly like what it was until someone from someone that I work with, like, we just like randomly met up one day and we were just like talking, and they were talking to me about how they experienced narcissistic abuse in their relationship. And when they explained that to me, I was like, this seems like this is like familiar to me, like, and I couldn't understand why. And then like one thing that they were like explaining, they're like, there's like different, like, there's different types, and like it's like in a spectrum. So like after I spoke with that person, you know, we like I did like my own research, and I've just been like doing my own research on it until like I then reached until like I for some reason like found these podcasts on Instagram, and like I started listening to it, and then like I just like started getting it more and more. And I'm not an expert on it now, but I kind of like I get it, and I can like see it. And I see it how, you know, it plays out in relationships, and I see how it causes domestic violence. So it's just a, like, okay, like my whole point is just like now, like, okay, like I know all of this, like what am I gonna do now? Which is like bringing awareness to this issue. All I really want to do is just like bring awareness of these issues, and because like I just don't like, I just want to stop. I want to, I don't know, I know that I can't stop it completely, but I would like to continue to bring awareness of, you know, domestic violence, so people aren't stuck in these relationships, because, you know, it can cause a lot of like harm to your body, your mental health, the people around you, and it's you know, people are dying from this. And it's just all about bringing awareness, and, you know, finding the right programs, creating the correct programs, or appropriate programs, I'm sorry, you know, creating more laws to stop, you know, this type of violence from happening. So hopefully all of that made sense for the next episode, because it'll be like the last Thursday of the month, but the month isn't over until the 31st, which is a Tuesday, and I record on Thursdays. So I think for like the last month, I'm gonna close it out with this book that I've read, that I've learned through Lee's podcast, and kind of just like come up with like a plan, like, you know, if you're going through this, like, what can, like, these are things that can possibly help you. And then like that's when, and then for like that episode, that's when I'm gonna have like the list of all of these episodes. I didn't realize I had so many. I have 108 of his saved. So I've been like listening to them and like putting them in an order of how I would like everyone to listen to them. So hopefully like you know, you can just like learn more about it and stuff. And like maybe he gives like good advice that you can maybe like, I don't know, apply to your life. I have a couple that I have pulled up. So like one of them is like why no one gets angrier or more upset than a guilty narcissistic person. There's the main difference between a narcissistic relationship and a non-narcissistic one. I really like that one. Why is it so hard to leave a narcissistic or toxic person? Love bombing isn't the only way narcissistic can get you bonded to them. So yeah, there's like a lot. So yeah, like I said, I'm gonna create a list. That way, like if you don't know where to start to like listening to his podcast, like you can at least start off with these videos and then decide if, you know, if you like it, then, you know, start off from like the very beginning of his podcast, or the other way around, from like recent and then work your way towards down. But yeah, thank you so much for watching today's episode. I hope that you all enjoyed it. I hope that it makes sense, because I know sometimes I don't make sense. Please, like, if you can, like, if there's like, if you can like review the podcast or like rate it, please do so, so that I know, you know, if I'm doing something wrong, or if where I can like fix anything. Like I said, on Spotify, it does give you the option to, where is it? Let me pull it up so I can see exactly what it says. It gives you the option to, where is it? I'm panicking. You know how like when you're looking for something and it's like right there, but you don't see it? So I feel like it's like right there, but I don't see it. What the, where is it? Guys, I'm kind of panicking a little. What the heck? I just had it pulled up. It's like, it's, oh, okay, it's right here. So, so Spotify will ask you, what do you think about this episode? And like, it's like private. So like you can write your own message on there and be like, hey, like I fucking hate this episode, it sucks. Or be like, hey, I love it, keep doing it. Or like, hey, I don't like that you said this, change this. And they'll be like, okay. And then like, so before I close out too, and like for like my period episode, like I have a question on there. And it says something about how your periods are, and like just give me like all your bloody details. So yeah, like I want to continue that conversation again to see like what our periods are like. So it says, what are your periods like? Give me all the blood. Okay, so it does say that. And no one has answered that yet, guys. And that's what I wanted to talk about again, like for this episode, just like because my period is arrived. So I use a period app. It's I track my periods, I track my moods on there. It tells me when it's gonna come out. It tells me like the estimated departure times of my periods. So like for this month, like I was 4 days late. So I was like, I kept telling my friends like, hey, maybe like I'm pregnant. There's no way that I'm pregnant, but like I just want the idea of being pregnant in my head. So yeah, I'm like 4 days late. I think I started noticing like spotting yesterday, but like nothing has like came out yet. But like for this month's period, like I didn't really feel like much like of any of the pains that you usually feel. Um, like my lower back, like my boobs and all that stuff. Like I didn't really feel pain. Like I've just been like really hungry and like craving sweets. And I don't know if my hunger is because I've been just working out a lot too, but I've just been hungry and like eating a lot. And I've been craving a lot of sweets, which is something that happens to me when I get my period. So that I can for sure say is a period symptom. Um, and I've been eating candy, guys, and I shouldn't be eating candy. I haven't mentioned this yet, but I'm vegan and I haven't been eating vegan candy. And I've been noticing what it's been doing to me. But it's just like I have like no self-control. Like I'm just like I want it all. So that's like the main symptom that I've had so far. Um, so we'll see once I get my period like what other symptoms show up. But that's all I've had. No like moodiness, no sadness. I haven't been crying. Um, so yeah, please answer that period question for me because like I said, I want to make another once I get like more followings, listeners. Like I want to have like a big discussion on like periods because like I said, I want to bring awareness of you know, the things that we go through during our periods because I'm gonna need some time off work and I'm gonna need that shit to be paid. Because I just can't do anything while I'm on my period, and that's not my fault. I'm not gonna force my body to do things that I can't. Um, so yeah, that was my little period rant, and I hope everyone has a good day, good week, good year, good everything, and all this money comes to your life and positivity and awesomeness and happiness and all this other stuff. And my dog is looking at me right now, so he's hungry. I gotta feed him. So goodbye, everyone. I'll see you in the next episode. And don't forget to do all of the followings everywhere. The only social media that I have for this podcast is Instagram. And YouTube is basically what I use for this podcast. Instagram, YouTube, and then just like anywhere that podcasts are heard, you can hear that. Oh my god, and then real quick before I leave, I saw that I had a listener from Mexico and from the Philippines. Ma'ams, who are you? Please send me messages. For the one in Mexico, si hablas español o hablas inglés, I don't care. No me importa, like talk to me. Háblame. Philippines, Philippines is pretty similar to Spanish, but if you speak English, like please reach out to me. I want to know you. I want to know how you found me, and I love you. And okay, I gotta go because I keep saying bye. Bye.